Hello, everybody. We are live with CricketSong, and my co-host or my guest or however you want to look at it today is ShadowSun.
Hi.
She's been on the channel before. We've done live streams, one or two before. I can't remember. Do you know? Has it been once?
Neither can I.
I think it might be once before. I think this is her second appearance. And today we're talking Magick, which really gives us a broad spectrum of where we can go with this topic. We can cover a lot of different things. And if you're watching in the chat, feel free to ask us questions in regards to the topic of Magick, because that's what we're talking about today for the next 59 minutes. Where should we begin, ShadowSun?
I think it'd be helpful if we kind of talked about like what Magick is and then just kind of narrow it down.
That sounds good. You know how I love my definitions of words. So
yeah.
how would you define Magick when you're talking about Magick?
When I talk about Magick, I generally talk about like the manipulation of energy in accordance with like one's will, very similar to Aleister Crowley's definition, but I also like to incorporate like I believe it's also utilizing like a relationship with deity or spirits and a relationship with, in my personal practice, like nature and the natural forces. And you can and cannot include like objects within that, like using maybe herbs or crystals or whatever you choose. Tools, it'll depend on your practice, of course.
Right. I definitely am a fan of Aleister Crowley's definition of magic. Yes, the manipulation of energy through emotions and your will, capital W, to create a change in your reality. That's how I define magic. So it does, for me, it does incorporate anything that you use, anything that has an energy, that you can manipulate that energy to focus it to create a change. So that could include everything you listed, you know, working with deities or nature spirits or the beloved dead or the ancestors or whatever, wherever you can find that energy. So yeah, I agree. That's how.
And the energy of the land you live on.
Yep.
As well. I feel like people sometimes forget that where you live has its own unique energy, its own unique spirit as well.
I agree. I definitely, for me, I include that in the whole idea of the nature spirits, but definitely it includes that land that you live on, because wherever you live is going to definitely have a different type of energy or a feel to that energy. Hello, November Eve. Hello, Dark Inversion. Dark Inversion already has a question for us. Yay. So the question, let me highlight the question for everybody who's watching. Hi, how do you feel about the offering of energy? Is something like a candle burning your favorite, or is spirit open to the energy of crystals, for example? So offering energy as an offering?
Yeah, okay. I see what they're saying. Yeah, I think so. I think yeah. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to ask how you feel about offering energy up to, I guess, whatever you're working with. If you do offerings, how do you feel about doing that? Is it something you do in your practice?
Yeah, I do that regularly. If it's fire season and I can't burn a candle, you better believe I'm going to offer something, even if it is just straight up energy. Because I feel like, let's just say it's spirit or it's deity, it's a form of energy and you're manipulating that energy. So you have to have energy to offer up in the first place. So if you're using a candle, that'll work. If you're using a crystal, that'll work. I think the only difference would be, I feel like there is a little bit of a difference in crystals versus candles in that like it's a little more subtler with the in terms of the difference. Like I feel like crystals have a very like subtle energy to them. Candles have a very vibrant sort of energy, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I generally, when I do offerings, it's definitely manifested energy, meaning that, you know, I will leave flowers on the altar for, you know, my beloved dead or the ancestors. I will offer incense, which these are manifestations of a specific energetic frequency. And that's how I tend to do it. I don't just do energetic offerings. That's not something I generally do if we're talking about specific offerings. But I definitely get where you're coming from in regards to crystals being different than candles, being different feels or vibrations of energy.
Yeah, even in like flowers or something. I think, my thing is talking. I think that you can use those things, but I also have used like incense, and I actually have a candle that I use for offerings as well. So like I'll burn it at specific points. It just depends on what I'm doing, but I'll definitely have like a candle aside specifically set for offerings that's only used for offerings, or I'll have other things for offerings as well. Like I would love to use flowers in here, but they would die.
Yeah.
They would legitimately die, and that would, I guess, that would be like the symbolic way of looking at it, like it's been received. But
Right.
I don't know. I feel like if I'm going to use something like that, I think it should be something very meaningful and very sacred.
I
It shouldn't
agree.
just be anything. So
Right.
I'm very conscientious of that. So I've had like offerings that I've written in thanks, and I've left it on my altar for a certain period of time. I might even speak the offering as a form of manifesting that energy.
Right. Yeah.
If I have nothing else.
I was just thinking I've offered like food, alcohol, different things like that for offerings too. Again, usually a manifested form of energy for a particular, and like you said, it's a conscientious choice that I'm giving specific entities a specific offering for them, because as you know, usually my offerings are given to beloved dead. So, specific beloved dead when they were alive had favorite items or favorite things or things that reminds me of that specific individual. So those are the things that I tend to offer those individuals.
That makes complete sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked about what magic is. So who can wield magic? What are your thoughts about that?
I personally am. This is gonna sound kind of like broad, but I feel like a lot of like anybody can wield magic. I just feel like a lot of people don't realize it because of society. Like society takes that out of us. We're conditioned not to believe in magic in the first place. But I feel like it's kind of inherent in a lot of people. It's kind of like, I'm going to equate this to like being psychic. Like everybody is psychic, but you just don't know because society conditions you out of it. And it's like any other talent or thing, any other skill. You just have to hone it. Somebody might be really good at, playing an instrument or singing, but you still have to learn how to do both of those things. And I think magic can be the same thing. Like some people might be more attuned and have more magical skill innately, but you still need to learn how to harness and wield that. What does energy manipulation look like for you? What does being in alignment with your like will look like for you? And that takes time.
I agree. I do think anybody can wield magic as well. But I agree, some people are more inclined to it. Maybe, just like you said, some people may really have an innate talent for drawing, or like you said, singing. And then some people need to practice more. I think it depends on where you were born, who raised you, what their beliefs are, what they passed on to you. My thought is, if you had parents who were magical workers, maybe they were both witches, then you may excel quicker in magic because it's something you were grown up with. It's something that you were taught at a young age. So maybe you excelled quickly. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you were just a rebellious little kid and didn't want to do anything mom or dad wanted you to do because you just had a rebellious nature. But I think it really depends on your environment. And like you said, society really tells us that magic is of fairy tales and make believe and pretend. So I feel like we need to, as individuals, overcome that prejudice against magic, to then say, well, I don't care what society tells me, I believe in it, and then go with that. So it depends. Yeah. But I do believe everybody has the potential to wield magic. I agree. November Eve did say service is a good offering. I agree. Service is definitely, that's energy being performed. I feel like, taking your energy and performing it in the name of service to others, as a devotion or an offering to whoever that you work with.
Yeah, I agree. I think service can be a great thing for some. I think it depends on what exactly, but yeah, I feel like service is just another form of manifestation that you can do to help bring that offering.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised, like I've heard of people doing that as like part of their devotion to a specific deity, and like they've received a lot of good results from that.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Service is a nice way of showing an offering to a deity, is my thought. But yeah, whatever spiritual entity you work with, I think is nice. So we said what magic was, who can wield it, when. I guess I'm going through the who, what, where, when, how. So,
Oh,
so when can we wield magic?
this is actually an interesting question because I feel like people get stuck
Mm-hmm.
on oh, you got to do it at this point in time, like this specific day or this specific part of the moon phase, i.e., like full moon or waxing moon or waning moon, which isn't a bad thing for the record. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do those things because they can be beneficial to your magic, but I believe magic in and of itself can be done at any point in time. Because as long as you have the will and the skill, not necessarily like just magical skill, but like as long as you're clear about what you want to have done, not just intention or anything like that, just yes, intention, but also like visualization, being able to focus, being able to raise and manipulate that energy into manifestation. You can do it just about anywhere.
Yeah, I agree. I think you can do it anytime. Uh, and I think I agree that people get stuck on this. I also think that, and I've seen people suggest that, oh, I'm really low energy today, so I can't hold ritual, because ritual can be a form of magic because you're manipulating the energies to cast a circle, to do your ritual, to for whatever purpose you're doing your ritual for, right? But in my perspective, if you're low energy, you can still pull and draw energy from other sources in order to fuel yourself to do whatever it is you want to do. So if you want to hold ritual or you want to cast a spell, maybe you really like the day or the moon phase, or maybe it falls on a specific day you want to do this particular spell for yourself or for someone else. There's something that's really compelling you to do it this day, but you're feeling low energy yourself. You can pull energy from your natural environment or from spiritual entities or from an object that you might have stored energy in for just this purpose. And you can use that energy to siphon it into you and then use that to create the change and wield your magic. So I think people get hung up on the idea that I'm really drained and I can't do this ritual or spell today. And I think that where there's a will, there's a way.
I agree. I've have had that situation where I've gotten stuck. I'm like, I've had no energy to do anything. I've done magic in the middle of a hospital bed, so I know how that goes. And that in and of itself is interesting because it's not the easiest thing to do, but it can be done. And it's like you were saying, you can siphon energy from one thing to another. Like even if you have spirits that you work with, you can still have them give you energy to use in that working. Or if you have something that you wear like regularly, if it's like a magical item, for example, you can use that energy as well. You can use energy in the space that you're in. I've stored energy in specific objects, my own altar. Like if I really need energy from my magic, I can just use energy from my altar or the environment that my altar surrounds as well.
Right. And don't forget your familiar spirit.
Yes, yes, thank you.
Familiar spirit, they're there to help you, and you can pull energy from them since they are, spiritual energy to begin with. You can definitely pull energy from them. Yeah, your altar, that's a great thing too. I remember when I was in a coven, we used to take the pulled circle that we'd raised, and after we closed circle, we would draw that energy and store it in the altar, as you suggested, for later use. Things like that are wonderful. And just, when you're feeling like you have excess energy, instead of just grounding that and earthing it into the earth, you can take that and imbue objects like a battery for later use, so that if you are tired or feel drained at a later time, you can always use that particular energy. I think that's a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah, like one of the things I was mentioning was I got this from a book. I forget which book it was, but it was talking about like moon phases and crystals, and it was saying like you can use specific crystals for, or like just quartz, for example, for charging in the particular moon phase that you want to use. So if you want to use stuff for like banishing or baneful magic, you would put some crystals out under this current moon phase that we're in right now. We're in a waning moon phase. You can charge them up with some waning moon energy. Or if you're using stuff during the dark moon, you could do the same thing. Insert scenario here, but I could see you doing that even not just with crystals, but like a container.
Yeah.
Or just your altar or whatever. It doesn't matter. So some people really like, I hold rituals. So when I do ritual, I like to wear specific pieces of jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
And I have those specific pieces of jewelry on my altar like all the time. So if I'm doing ritual and I'm doing a spell, even if I'm not doing a spell within a ritualistic context, I will still put on the jewelry because I'm still raising energy and I'm still imbuing it with the energy that I'm working with anyway.
Right.
And it's really beneficial. So if you have nothing but jewelry or crystals or even rocks from your backyard, don't forget your environment that you're in. You can use the energy in your environment to feel your magic. So if you're standing outside getting your 15 minutes of sun, use that.
Right. I was going to say stones or rocks from your yard or places that you go to, because I have a little bowl of rocks that I use. I don't tend to use crystals other than quartz, but I definitely use rocks or sticks or anything like that, pine cones, things like that you can use.
Leaves, flowers.
Yep.
If you have like pieces of like fallen, like I've seen stuff like from the trees.
Mm-hmm.
I've like picked stuff up. Like if you go on hikes and stuff, just if you get stuff respectfully, I might add, respectfully, get it. Don't just pick it up and leave. No, don't leave anything. I like to leave something behind, even if it is just water, like something. Just because reciprocity and all that, you don't want to just take from nature or just pick off plants. I don't know. That's just my thing. But using what you have around you. I feel like people get stuck in the you need XYZ to do this.
Right.
I don't have this herb. What do? I can't do it. I don't have this candle. I can't do it. Myself included, for the record. I've had that problem. I'm like, I have no candles. What am I doing? I've used other stuff. Yeah. And like it can go into colors too, like colors and that sort of thing with magic as well.
Right. Where can people do magic?
I think people can do magic anywhere. Literally anywhere. I don't see why you need a specific place. I tell people churches everywhere. If it's in a religious context. If your magic is in a religious context, it's everywhere. And even if it's not, it's still everywhere. Magic is everywhere. It's in everything. It's in everything, everybody.
Yeah.
Magic is all around you. You just have to find it.
I agree. I think for me, I mean, depending on what you're doing with the magic, how you're looking to, and what you're looking to manifest, I think for me at least, being in sacred space helps me focus so that I can concentrate better in order to make the magic happen. Now, where is that sacred space? For me, it's right here in the room I'm in right now, the room where my altar is located. But that does not mean that I can't do magic elsewhere. I would tend to do a quick like circle if I'm elsewhere, just to incorporate me, just to separate me from the shared reality. Because I do believe that magic will take the path of least resistance. And in looking at that, carving out a space, even if it's just a temporary space where it's just me and I am not feeling compelled to follow the rules and laws of shared reality. I've carved my own little bubble, or I've gone into my own sacred space where it is a time between time and a place between places, where nothing exists except that which I bring in with me. So ideally, I'm creating this pathway that has very few obstacles, except the ones I've brought in with me, right? Which can be huge obstacles depending on what you're thinking at that moment, which is why meditation is so important. But anyways, that's a little different discussion there.
I agree with you 100% though.
Yeah, sacred space, wherever that is.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was kind of getting at too, is like sacred space is definitely important, but I always say like, yes, you can do magic anywhere, but I like for you, I also have the room that I'm in. Like this is my sacred space that I usually perform magic in. But like you said, you can do magic anywhere. The only reason I said that first was because sometimes people get so caught up in doing magic at the altar that they forget. Like if you're traveling, you can still do magic anywhere.
Yes.
You can still, if you're on the road and you need to do something really quick, let's say you need a little bit of protection as you're on the road, you can pull over, do your thing. You can stop. You can do whatever you need to do to get you in that sacred space and be on your way.
Yeah. You know what's really helpful, I find, at least for me, I use keys in my practice a lot, like keys, keys to, I use skeleton keys particularly, but you could use any type of key. And I have keys that are sort of set to as like you touch it and it transports you to a specific place. So having a key on your keychain that would help you automatically sort of get into that sacred space. So when you're traveling, all you have to do, if you need to do that quick spell, I can touch the skeleton key on my keychain, which will help me get into that mind space and create that time without time, that space between space, and allow me to cast a spell in that moment. It's really helpful. So, I mean, whether you use a key or whether you use a crystal, you always carry in your pocket that you've sort of programmed to get you to that sacred space, or maybe a piece of jewelry, a pendant, if you wear your pentacle all the time, if you program it to do that for you, then all you have to do is touch it. Bam, you're there. Whoosh, you can do your spell and then go about your business.
I love that. And now that you said that, you got me thinking about this particular piece. So like when you brought up meditation, I have a specific crystal that I use for meditation only. Mm-hmm. That's because I want to make sure that when I use it, like literally when I pick that up, I'm already more receptive to being in that meditative state. It kind of puts you in a light trance, if you will.
Right.
And I feel like the key is a fantastic example. I like to make like mojo bags or like little bags for people in their cars. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, yeah, here, use this when you get in the car. And I give them very specific instructions on what to do when you put it in the car. Mm-hmm. You get a new car, you get another car, doesn't matter. as long as you're continuously, and like if I'm in the car, I'll continuously give it some energy, but I'll also make sure that they're doing it as well. Like I'll give them specific ways in which they can add that energy for themselves because they're the ones in the car all the time. So, and ideally, yeah, I would love to use somebody's like keys or something like that. Something they have that's very personal to them, so that it's specifically vibrating at their frequency as well because they're the ones traveling most likely in the car.
Right, right, right. And for me, I've always been fascinated by skeleton keys. So that's why, I have a little group of keys that I use, one for that sacred space, and others are programmed for different purposes. But because I carry one on my keychain with me all the time, I rarely leave the house without my keys, right? To get back in the house. So whether it's, if I'm driving and there's a need, or if I'm sitting waiting for my daughter to get out of work and there's a need, or I've had an experience in a store or just walking and there is a need to cast or wield magic in whatever it's I don't know, however, whether it's a spell or magical working, however you're going to define that, wielding the magic to make that change that I need to make at that moment, it's easier to do because I have that thing that locks me into that space.
I agree, and I can also see it with the pandemic too, like your masks.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Dark inversion. I have a box of positively charged charcoal dust I obtained during an important emotional incident in my life, which I use as an offering. Back to touching momentarily for an offering. And I think that's wonderful. Having something that charcoal dust or any sort of, I think you were talking about mojo bags, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or flower petals or whatever, if it means something important to you that you're going to offer up, I think that's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Yeah, or like written petition, or not even a petition, like you're petitioning them to do something, but like things and thanks for them. Like if all you've got is paper and pen or implement for writing here, whatever that is, if all you can do is do that, then that's an offering in of itself, and you're putting it into physical manifestation because you're writing it down. It's not something physical.
Right. What is magic? Who can wield it? When can? Where? I guess the last one I have written down is how. How do we wield magic? What are the ways in which we wield it?
I feel like that's like a loaded question because everybody has a different answer.
Right?
It is though. Well, here's my thing. Like I feel like magic is so diverse and it's versatile. You could do anything. My go-to right now is candles, crystals, and writing implements at the moment. Like insert for myself, I can only like do like writing in actual braille or writing and printing stuff out, but I'm like ridiculously weird about that because I'm like, I don't want anybody just to read that. But you can do magic in a variety of ways. It could be ritualistic, it can non-be ritualistic, and I do a mix of, currently in my practice, a little bit of ritualistic magic and non-ritualistic magic. It depends on what I'm doing, where I'm at, and what the situation is. But magic can be done in a variety of ways. You can do magic with, whatever rocks in your backyard, dirt, chanting, dancing, within or without like sacred space, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think magic, I agree. It's definitely diverse. There are many different ways people in general use and wield magic. I mean, I just think of, because I was raised Roman Catholic, even a Roman Catholic mass is magical.
Thank you for saying that. I've been saying that forever, and I've been like, seriously, if anyone doesn't call this magic one time, I'm losing my mind, because every mass I've ever been to just screams magic, from the incense to the words to the everything else, I've only been to the ones in Spanish and like a few of them in English, but regardless, the very core of it just I'm telling you, it just
Well,
screams magic.
I mean, if you go to the core of it, the transfiguration that takes
Yeah.
place when they take the wafer, the Eucharist, and it becomes the body of Christ, that's a magical working right there. So, and then they imbue, I mean, they imbue it with intention and just go on and on. So, but when I look at forms of magic, like I said, whether you're in a sacred space like a church or your sacred space, your temple, your shrine, or your caste circle, that is all to help you focus into your meditation, which ideally the purpose of meditation is visualization. And visualization, which I know we've talked about before, it's not just seeing something, it's experiencing that you're looking to manifest. So I would say the way for your magic to manifest is to be able to visualize it first. So however you do that, however you visualize the change you want to see, that you want to experience in the physical reality, however you can visualize it and bring it from the astral into the physical is how you're going to make magic work. You know, it's however you do that. So as many different types of people there are, you're going to have that many different types of magic, or magical workings, because magic is just magic, right?
I agree. And a lot of people get stuck to this. I bring this up for a reason. Most people, when they ask me about magic, they're like, so do you need specific things? Or if they don't want to know about specific things, they ask you for like a book, right? Because if this book says this, then it must be true. Or you have to do it this way or that way or the other way or whatever it is. Insert scenario here. The only exception I state for people needing to do stuff a specific way is if you're part of a very specific tradition.
Yeah.
If you're in a tradition, then that's already that can't be changed. Well, I won't say it can't be changed, but I'm gonna say that you should follow that, because if you're in that tradition, they have those there for a reason.
Right.
Those practices exist for a reason, and you want to be respectful of that.
Right. And if you're following that tradition, if you've been initiated into that tradition, or even a coven, and your coven may not be a lineaged coven, but if you're part of a coven and your coven has a specific way of doing specific magical workings, then being a member of that coven, there's benefits in following the way that the coven has set it forth. You're tapping into a source of energy and magic that coven has created. And I think if you have joined that coven, you're looking to connect with that stream of energy and magic. You've joined that tradition because you want to tap in and use and utilize and all the benefits of that magic that's been there for however long that tradition has existed. You know, I think those are wonderful sources of energy and magic. And so use that and follow, like ShadowSun was saying, follow the way that they set forth, because there are reasons why they're doing it a specific way.
Right. And I feel like, so for myself, when I was first learning how to do, we'll just go with ritual, because I do like ritualistic magic. So when I was learning how to cast circle, and I was really honing my visualization skills, that was one of the things I was like, wait, it says it to do it like 3 different ways. So which way is it? And you have to experiment. I can't emphasize that enough. If you're practicing by yourself, I've been practicing by myself my entire duration of my path, which is just about 10 years, more or less. And point being, I had to learn different ways of doing things, because there are certain things that you don't always have someone to assist you with. If you're in the middle of wherever and you have no one around you, and all you have is a book or 2 or 6, and those 2 to 6 books is telling you, oh, you got to do this, that, and the other thing. Well, you're going to have to try about 3 different ways before you get it, before you get the thing that works.
Right.
And it took me a few tries. It really did, because I did one where, I didn't move, right? Like you're just, visualizing the circle. And in the beginning, that was actually really hard because I was like, but how do I, because they give very visual examples.
Mhm.
And I had to think about it. And I was like, okay, wait, I was taking it literally. So when I took the literalness out of it, I said, okay, so if I was going to imagine a circle and I was going to imagine what that would look like as they're describing it, and I went with the description, I took that concept and stripped it down to its core elements. And by that, I mean, when I visualized it, I put all my senses in it. I put myself, my mind in that space of, I'm in this space outside of space and time.
Mhm.
And when I did that, that's when it clicked in my head. Same thing with any other magical skill. Meditation doesn't have to be complicated. Don't complicate it. I tell people in the meditation series that I did, I'm like, don't make, if you all you have is 10 minutes, start with 10 minutes. But if you can focus longer by doing just 10 minutes for like a week, then that's benefits right there. Imagine what you would do if you did it for 2, or if
Right.
you did it for 15. And let's say it's not like circle casting and it's not meditation. Let's say you're good with those things, meditation, visualization. Let's say you just want to know how to do a very simple candle working.
Mhm.
And you get stuck on the, oh, well, this book says you got to use green for prosperity or whatever. Well, what if you're in a country where green is not the color of money?
Right.
So what do you use? You use the color that's associated with your country's color for money.
Right.
Or colors, because apparently in some countries there's multiple colors.
Right. Right.
And you have to be able to just look at it and personalize it in a way that makes sense to you. Same with like correspondences. Correspondences are very useful, but they're not strict. Unless again you're in a tradition, then that's different. But if you're not, if they're not, they don't have to be that strict and complicated.
Right. They don't. They don't. Yeah, and correspondences. I mean, I think there's a benefit in using correspondences, but again, you don't want to get bogged down by correspondences either.
Just keeping it balanced.
Exactly.
You wanna balance it out. Like if you're doing the candle working and you live in a place where where money isn't green, then you use that. And what if there's another correspondent? Oh, what if it's the day? Like, well, I need this really quick. Well, I mean, you still got to do the work anyway, or if you need it on a specific day or whatever the case is, but they say, oh, you got to do it on a Thursday or a Sunday or whatever the case is, and you can't, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it on that day. It just means that you can still do it. It's just going to be a little bit different. It's going to depend on what you're trying to do, but insert scenario here. But it's okay to personalize. It's okay to try it out. If it doesn't work the first time, try it on that day then and see if it works.
Right. Right. And that's why I think keeping a track, keeping a record of your magical workings to see how they manifest for you. So like you suggested, if they, whoever they are, said that Thursday is the best day for you to do the working or the spell casting that you want to do, but you need it today, and today is Tuesday, I would definitely keep a track. I did this at this time on Tuesday, this date, and I used these correspondences, this candle, this color, whatever. And if you find that it worked for you for that intention on Tuesdays, then for you, if you try Tuesday again to do a similar spell, it works for you, even if they, whoever they are, said that it doesn't work on Tuesdays. Well, for you, your magic works that way on a Tuesday.
Yeah, and it like I said, it's not set in stone. Like I didn't think that there was a reason for it. Like I tried this one book that had like a list of all these correspondences, and I go, what? That can't be right. Where did they come up with this stuff? Like where did this come from? Like obviously somebody had to do it multiple times. Like one of the examples I gave in a video was talking about a full moon being the best time for any type of magic, and I said, I don't think so. That can't be right. But I've always been an adventurous person. I've always been an experimenter in my own practice. So I said, okay, I'm gonna try it, and I did, and it did work. So I tried it again, and it worked, but I did it for 2 different things. Keep that in mind.
Right.
It worked, not because, and I found out it does work, not because the book said, but because I did it and I saw results. So that's probably what this person did. Insert scenario book title here. But the point being that you can use them as guidelines. Try them out. Like one of the books I used, I tried it out for a week. I did the traditional correspondences for the entire week. There's the moon for Monday, Mars for Tuesday, et cetera, et cetera. If you want to know if this is going to work, do it. Just do it. Just for the sake of learning and experience, try it out. I remember reading a book. I forget which book it was. I think it was Scott Cunningham's Wicca. It was saying something like, I'm paraphrasing, but it was saying something, if you want to learn to practice magic, then do it. And when I read that the first time, I was like, but how do you do it? Like, what does that mean? And I was so confused and I didn't know what that meant. But when I started doing these things, experimenting, trying stuff out, learning, there is a value in that. And I feel like people forget that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, I definitely feel like magic, witchcraft, or any form of magic is an act of, you physically do something. It's also mental. It starts as a thought, a vibration on the astral. But in order to have it manifested in the physical, we need to draw it through and into the physical, which requires some sort of action, some sort of work on our part to bring it, whether we're speaking it, whether we're actually physically manipulating things which carry the energy, whether we're doing a spell, whether we're doing something. I think a lot of individuals would like to just light that gold colored candle on their altar and be done and have gold or money fall into their lap. But it takes more than that. I have yet to meet someone who is so aligned with their capital true T, capital W will, their true will or their witch self, that they can just light a candle and have it happen. It takes a little more than that for us in this modern day society, because there are so many obstacles that are in our way, so many non-believers in the power of witchcraft and magic. It's hard to be an individual who truly believes that anything, capital anything, is possible when there are so many loud voices that say that's not true,
Right, and you are influenced by what you are around, your environment, the media, society, whatever. Everything is going to influence you, including your magic and your practice. So if you legitimately think that magic is not going to help you out of your money problems, then yeah, it's not going to help you because you already ascribe to that belief. You're like, oh, well, it's not going to work, so therefore it doesn't. Now you can work on that. Like that's not you. It's, well, maybe it is you, but sometimes it is you and sometimes it really isn't you. But you really can't tell because you're so influenced by 50 different things that you don't even know which one it is anymore. The media plays a large role in everything. And I think the media has a lot to do with that instant gratification that we have streaming services, right? We can watch whole series of TV. How this relates to magic is because, look, people think, oh, well, we should be able to light the candle and it should come like right now. Like I shouldn't have to do the job. I shouldn't have to apply. I shouldn't have to go through the interview. You do, because all you're doing is putting up more resistance, and all you're doing is putting up a wall. That wall is not going to come down until you start doing something.
Right.
Magic is a tool. It's an aid. It's not going to solve all your problems, because sometimes people forget magic can really help in a lot of ways, but we sort of stop ourselves, myself included.
Exactly. We sabotage ourselves. And because I again goes back to the idea that we are human beings living a human experience in a world that is constantly being influenced by outside sources other than ourselves. It's shaped by our experiences, and we create these obstacles within ourselves through our life experiences. I mean, all of us, in some way, shape, or form, have experienced some sort of trauma. Some sort of trauma. Some of us greater traumas or multiple traumas piled on top of each other in our lives, and they create obstacles. They create beliefs that we hold, ideas about ourselves, about other people, about the world, about life. And these obstacles create this challenge when we're trying to wield magic, and we're not in a place where we can just light a candle, set out that intention, and make it happen. There's just too much resistance within us. It's just not going to happen.
And there's also a lot to be said for distraction.
Yes.
You get distracted by little things, myself included.
Yep.
Oh, you're really in it. You're really raising the energy. All of a sudden, the phone rings.
Oh, yeah.
Why is the phone ringing? Why is the phone ringing?
Because you forgot to put it on.
Yeah, right? Like, oh, yeah. Or just in this scenario here. Oh, they're knocking at the door. Oh, why are they knocking at the...
Yeah.
Right, that happens. Or, that's a simple example, but this could be anything. You could be like, oh, you're in it. You're in that state. You're really, the energy's flowing. All of a sudden, oh, did I pay that bill? Oh, wait, isn't that what I was supposed to? No, just, and that's where the meditation comes in, myself included. Like I said, exactly. I've done that. Totally done that. Just, meditation makes a big difference. And there is something to be said too for learning how to ground and how to center yourself and shield yourself and do all that, because there's a lot of things that we get influenced by that we don't even realize that's influencing us until we sit there and go, why do I think this? Yeah. Why am I thinking, who's telling me this? Is it me or is it them?
Right.
And especially if you're really empathic, like, I used to be super empathic, and I used to have these problems where, like, I would literally feel like if somebody was sick, and that's before I learned how to ground and center myself and shield myself, because there is something to be said for that. I feel like those are really core things for someone to learn as a magical practitioner, because you need to be able to be in a space where you're not thinking about the bill, the person knocking at the door, the phone ringing, whatever. You want to be in it. You want to be focused. You want to be in that state. It's like when you run, or when you're, like the athletes, when they run, when they do whatever they're doing, they're in that flow, that state of flow, that's that zone of, nothing is diverting my focus.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. There's distractions. There's outside influences that affect us. You mentioned the media, but it could be your family. It could be a significant other. It could be your frickin' neighbor next door. It could be your pets, your children. Anything could influence you. You work, your coworkers, the day that you had, the day that you think you're going to have. All these things can influence the individual when they're trying to wield their magic in order to create a change that they're looking to create. And understanding, I think this is a big one too, understanding that only you cannot force someone to do something that they just don't want to do. I mean, you can influence them. There are certainly ways you can manipulate them, but in the end, it comes down to their own will and their own desire. Because if you're trying to work against someone else's will, capital W, you can even put capital T in front of it, true will, or their witch self, whether they identify as witch or not, that core of who they are and what they want to achieve in this lifetime, we can influence that. We can try to manipulate it. But in the end, it comes down to whether it's aligned with what they want or not. you know.
Yeah, I feel like that gets brought up a lot in the context of like cursing
Mm-hmm.
and baneful magic. And I feel like there's always going to be those people that really just look out for stuff like that.
Yeah.
And if that's what you want to do, go ahead and do it, but good luck if it works, because I don't know of anybody who's literally had that happen to them.
I will, like, when talking about baneful magic or curses or doing malediction, if you there's a way that you can manipulate, and there is a way that you can plant seeds within someone else and cultivate that. But in the end, the quote best way to curse is to align it with their true will. But that would require you to understand what their true will is. I think there are a lot of individuals who attempt to curse others that may cause uncomfortability, that the person may experience some sort of discomfort or disharmony within their life. But those really curses that you hear, the really big bad curses, or the kind you see in fairy tales, um, I'm thinking of Maleficent, cursing,
Oh,
that
yeah.
kind of thing. Those really, or even what was it? Once Upon a Time. Is that show?
Yeah, the one with the fairy tales?
Yeah, where the whole town goes to sleep.
Yes, and then the book,
Right.
the little boy has the book with
Yes,
the thing. Yeah.
those kinds of curses, that takes a lot. That takes a lot. And that takes someone who understands the true will of the town or the individual to be able to weave it so it's really it kind of sticks. But
Where it continues.
right. It takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot of time. And I don't think we generally see those types of curses as often as the misfortune, the little things that if that person that is being cursed is feeling down or depressed or in a very vulnerable state, those are the ones that are easily manipulated because they're not strong. Those are the people that need protection from.
And they're vibrating at that specific frequency to be manipulated at that. So if you're already in that space
Right.
of down and out,
Yep.
of course you can be manipulated. I've had people ask me if they've been cursed. And it's like, often than not, more often than not, you're
Right.
not cursed. Like, that's the thing that people need to understand.
Yeah.
But there also is something to be said to understand what it means to curse. I said in a video that I made yesterday about magic, and I was talking about how you do need to know how curses are done. You need to understand how baneful magic is done. You need to be balanced in that. I'm not saying you need to go out and curse somebody for the sake of doing it. Not saying you got to do anything like that. What I'm saying is for you to have the knowledge, and this way, if a situation comes up where either you have to be the one to do it or someone does it to you, you know how to counteract it if it's the person doing it to you, or vice versa. You need to be the one to do it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I mean,
I believe that too. I think it's important to have the knowledge. But some people that's just not their cup of tea. And it doesn't have to be your cup of tea.
Of course. It's like people who say they don't want to work with spirits.
Right.
Which I find really weird.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother conversation altogether.
I know, right? Right.
Yeah, that's like a whole nother thing. But like, I feel like when it comes to magic in general, it doesn't have to be, people like to put things in boxes, and there is something for labels. Labels are important. But if the label doesn't fit, don't put it in the box.
Right.
If magic is just that, magic. End of story. It's not dark, light, or indifferent. It's indifference. It's neutrality. It's it's not gonna do whatever. It's only about what you want to do with it.
Right.
Magic can hurt you and it can help you.
Oh, definitely. Like electricity. I like compare it to electricity.
Yeah, so do I. The whole path that leads to
Electricity
distance.
exists. Electricity is always there. We can harness electricity to power our computers, give us light. But we can also use electricity to kill an electrocution. I mean, electric chairs exist. So it's just a energy. It's an energy.
Right. It's almost like fire in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Fire can be used to cook our home, keep our homes warm, heat our homes. Can also be used to burn a house down or
Exactly.
whatever else. Or it can be used to, cook. You can to feed
Yep.
you, to nurture and give you nutrition. But it could also be used to harm you.
Exactly. Exactly. So we have about 4 minutes to wrap up. Was there anything else you wanted to mention about Magick before we end our stream today?
No, I just know that it went really fast. I'll tell you.
I know,
didn't even.
right?
Yeah. I would just say.
Questions in the chat?
Yeah.
Any last questions?
Questions?
People were talking about meditation in chat. So.
Oh, okay. I didn't even look. I was gonna say, if you guys are, if you're new or if you just are trying to get back into your practice, highly recommend just starting really small and just building it back up, build up that rhythm, that momentum. And even in the times that we're in, you can do magic in the times that we're in. Don't forget that. Your masks, your sanitizer, that's all can be used in a magical context.
It definitely can. Definitely can. And I'm going to take a few minutes and just plug my own book, if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Check that book out if you guys haven't.
I have a whole chapter in Becoming Witch, Back to the Basics. Chapter 4 is all about magic. I cover a lot of different topics in magic in the book in chapter 4. So if you haven't read my book, you can go over to Amazon and purchase it. You can go to my website and order a autographed copy if you prefer to do it that way. But yeah, I cover, the witch's pyramid. We didn't even discuss that. I talk about the witch's pyramid in this chapter. I talk about time and space and the concept, which I basically touched on briefly. I did definitely have the definition of Aleister Crowley's, and there's some exercises in that chapter to help you get in touch with your magic. So, yeah. Yay. And you could join my Facebook group too, because we talk about fun stuff and there's prompts in there and witchy questions to consider. ShadowSun is a member of that wonderful group.
Yes, check out the Practical Witchcraft book the book and the Facebook group. You know what? That's when you know.
Yeah, that's when you know
it's you know what? Just check them both out, and also feel free to ask a question if you didn't get your question answered here in the chat. Like, we're both there, so we'll be able to answer whatever you want to know.
Yeah. So thank you all for watching. Thank you, ShadowSun, for being my co-host or guest, or however you want to look at it. I'm sure we will do this again.
Yes, I hope so.
And thank you all in chat for joining us, and everybody that wasn't necessarily in chat but was watching. So thank you all. And I'll see you, I think the next time I have one scheduled is in a couple of weeks. Yeah, I think it's the 17th, April 17th. I'm not sure what I'm talking about or who I'm talking with, but that's the tentative time for the next live stream. So thank you all for joining. Thank you, ShadowSun. Blessed be everyone.
Blessed be.